Hello and welcome to our special series of Green Elephant interviews during March 2021, supporting the annual B Corps month. B corporations, or B Corps for short, are businesses that meet the highest standards of verified social and environmental performance, public transparency and legal accountability to balance profit and purpose. Throughout March, we are chatting with key people in companies which have chosen to certify as B Corps and become a force for good. So today I've been joined by Richard Tang from Zen Internet. Zen Internet are the UK's largest independent broadband provider and also provide business networking, communications and cloud services. They've been a certified B Corporation for a year and have won awards from Which PC Pro and are Times 100 Best Companies to Work For. My guest, Richard Tang, is founder and chairman at Zen. So welcome to the show, Richard.
Thank you very much, Mike. Great to be on.
Yeah, no, good to have you here. So let's get to the key question to start with. Blur or Oasis?
I like a bit of both. Oasis maybe it's just got the edge.
And for listeners that aren't sure about why I asked that question, Richard has a video on his site, and it's on YouTube, I think, which is about the founding of Zen Internet and him and his brother in Blur Oasis t-shirts, which I enjoyed very much. So listeners, go and have a watch of that if you get a chance. But I guess the question out of that, Richard, is why an ISP? Why was that the thing you decided to set up?
This was 1995, so 25 years ago.
Yeah.
The internet, I mean, believe it or not, the internet was something that nobody really knew about back then. I mean, hard to believe.
I was using CompuServe, I think, but yeah.
Yes, that's right. And it just seemed something that was new, interesting, nichey. And did I know back then that it was going to be as big as it has got? Absolutely not. I just thought this looks something interesting. Let's give it a try. One thing that attracted to me from a commercial point of view was at the time I was writing software as a contractor. So every time I wanted to earn some more money, I'd write some more software. And I thought, this is a great business model, because if you can sign up subscribers to the internet service, then you've got that recurring revenue. And I quite naively thought that once you'd signed a customer up, you didn't really need to do very much to keep that customer. What I've learned over the last 25 years, you've got to work really, really hard to keep the service running well.
But I guess in 1995, that was quite novel, wasn't it? That subscription-based recurring service. That was.
Yeah, it was, and I likened it to the mobile phone industry back then, because if you remember in the 90s, your average high street had loads of mobile phone shops.
Yeah.
And again, that was that recurring business model that you would sign someone up for a mobile phone on a contract, and then every month there'd be a subscription. So I did think, it's sort of similar to mobile phones, and that was definitely attractive.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously you founded that 25 years ago, and it's done phenomenally well and grown into a really great company. What were the major challenges you faced growing from sitting in a pub having a conversation and actually growing to the size that you are today? What were the biggest challenges you had to overcome on that?
The biggest challenges, there's so many over the years. I think for anyone that sets up in business, you start off with an idea. I'd never run a business before. So really I had an idea, and I learned a lot as I went along about how to run a business well, how to run a business not so well, how to keep on top of your bookkeeping, all sorts of things like that, how to recruit the right people, what to do if you recruit the wrong people, how to do that balance between how much money you invest in the future growth of the company versus how much money do you keep in your bank account just to keep the business afloat. So much challenge, really. But I mean, when I went into the business really early on, I had an idea that I want Zen to be different. I want Zen to be people focused. I guess I'd seen a little bit of a window into big corporations and thought, I want to do something a bit differently to that.
Yeah.
And so just trying in different ways.
And we'll dig into that. But I'm really interested because ISPs, internet networks, that's an industry full of the likes of BT, and I guess it would have been AT&T, cable and wireless, huge monolithic, monopolistic organizations. How did you overcome the challenge of competing with those kinds of organizations?
The key to success against competing with those bigger players was to differentiate ourselves in whatever way we could. And the way we differentiated ourselves really over pretty much all of our existence was on service quality.
Right.
So our proposition to the market was, we're not going to be as cheap as some of these mass market players, but we are going to provide the best service you can get, the fastest, the most reliable. And if you ring up, you'll speak to someone in Rochdale who will know what they're talking about and will care about whatever issue you're calling in about. And that's something that has been really at the core of us as a company, compared with the big players that are more concerned with scale and more concerned with cutting costs. So they will more readily outsource their service centers very often overseas, which is fine if your problem maps onto the flow chart that is being followed. But if it doesn't, which of course it often doesn't, then it becomes very frustrating.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because it just reminds me. I think I started working at IBM in 1998, possibly, and the first person I spoke to was a guy called Greg from Rochdale, and he was great. So there's a coincidence. Greg from Rochdale. The second person I spoke to was Colin. I'm not sure that was his real name, from Bangalore, and so that was just the stark difference between the level of service and understanding from a company, an organization of that size, and what you were offering. But yeah, I mean, let's come on to the people now, because looking at what the company says and the ethos, it does seem to be highly people focused. I mean, and I would suggest, I mean, we're speaking to a lot of B Corps this month, and they have all sorts of different impact models and things they're doing and good things they're doing, but few, if any, are as focused on the people as it seems that you are.
I would say we almost have taken the B Corp model, which is all about balancing purpose and profit. So B Corp has this idea of balancing purpose and profit. At Zen, we've got a very clear set of objectives that say, no, people come first. Not about balancing here. Of course, we've got to do lots of balancing within the organization, but ultimately we exist for the happiness, well-being of people, our staff, our customers, our supplier relationships, and everything else that we do feeds into that. So we've got to make a profit as a business, otherwise we wouldn't survive. But that is subservient to the happiness of our staff, customers, and suppliers. So we set out these three most fundamental long-term objectives, which in priority order are happy staff, happy customers, and happy suppliers. This is the reason we exist as a business. Everything else is subservient. And if we look across the organization, we should always be able to say what we are doing is ultimately contributing to one or more of these three objectives. It's right at our core. We've got the luxury of doing that because we've not got external shareholders. We've not got the city breathing down our neck to make a shorter term return, so we can look for the long term. And we can make decisions. We can say, look, we can make this decision. This might dent our finances in the short term. In the long term, it will pay back, but it's the best thing for our people. So we can do that without pressure to do otherwise. And it's worked for us very well.
Yeah, amazing, and really different to pretty much every organization. I mean, can we have you got some examples that come to mind of decisions you've made where you've said, no, we're putting the people before the, anything else in the company, and decisions you've made that have said, we decided to do this for people reasons? And is there any specific examples you've got?
So it's something that we do day in, day out. Yeah. So all the way from, let's say one of our customers has an issue, puts in a complaint, then we'll look at that complaint and we'll look at it from the point of view, not so much is, let's dive into the terms and conditions and what's the minimum we could get away with in terms of a goodwill gesture or something like that, but rather what would result in both the customer and the member of staff dealing with that customer, what is the happiest outcome? And sometimes that means being a bit more generous with our goodwill gesture. Sometimes it means it's an approach that is just fundamentally different, and that's the sort of day-to-day stuff that we do day in, day out. And then all the way up to the more strategic decisions. So as with any business of our size, and we employ about 540 people now, we spend a lot of time and effort thinking about our future strategy. And when thinking about where are we going to be next year, 3 years time, 5 years time, that people focus and our fundamental objectives is at the core of the decisions that we make. So, for example, investment in the working environment or investment in our network. So we make investments in our network that make the network maybe more reliable than we would need it to be, because we know people are depending on it. Yeah. And we know that our profit is going to go down as a result of that, but our customers are going to benefit from it. And it's, I suppose it's woven in so tightly to every decision that we make, rather than just being about, what maximizes shareholder return. I think that there's the big difference, is if you go into a lot of our big corporate competitors, then very often what seems to be driving their decisions is what ultimately is going to give the shareholders the most money back.
Yeah. What are the numbers for the next quarter? I've been there, and it's not from a people point of view, it's not a great place to be, because you're always looking over your shoulder or around the corner to the next set of numbers, and it's
well, absolutely. I mean, it drives the most ridiculous of short-term behaviour, which I think I mean, that's worked in that environment.
One of the nicknames I liked when I was at IBM was, and it is this behaviour of making a decision short term and then going somewhere else before anybody. And it used to be said that IBM was short for I've been moved, because you would be moved to another department or another position, and so if you made a decision that didn't go particularly well, it didn't matter because you've been moved somewhere else. So terrible. I mean, you mentioned customers in there, and I noticed that you're looking for climate conscious conscious consumers. And what does that mean to you? What is a climate conscious consumer?
Well, I think doesn't the world need a lot more people to be climate conscious? I think the good news is that people are more conscious of the environment and the climate than ever before, of course, for good reason. And I think, to me, climate conscious consumer, environmentally conscious consumer, it means people that are just becoming increasingly aware of what the consequences of their actions are, what the consequences of their businesses' actions are. So, if you wind back 20 or 30 years, when the climate the climate crisis was not a thing, apart from a very small minority, you would drive up and down the country, you would get on a plane, you would buy goods that you don't really need, and you wouldn't give a second thought to the impact that those decisions were making on the climate. Whereas now, people are more conscious. When they want to change their car, they're thinking, well, should I buy another petrol car, a diesel car, a hybrid, all electric? And I think people are more and more conscious about what the impact of that decision is. Should I buy a car at all?
At all, yeah.
Do I actually really need one?
And I think when they're buying, I mean, there's been lots of surveys recently that show more and more people are, when they do buy, they're going to buy from ethical companies. And so that's where the B Corp really comes in, because if you want to know if a company's ethical or not, then you could look for a company with some kind of green badge that you don't really understand, or you could go for a B Corp. And I mean, moving on to B Corp, what was your journey to becoming certified like? Was it straightforward? Did you do the assessment and it was okay, or did you have a lot of work to do? Or talk me through how you came to being certified.
I think first worth saying is that there are a number of these standards around. B Corp is without doubt the gold standard. I think for a socially conscious and environmentally conscious business. And one of the things that B Corp mandates that none of the other standards does is to say, we need you to write into your articles of association a legal responsibility for the directors to have to take into account the social consequences and the environmental consequences of their decisions, not only to take into account, but to deliver social benefit, to deliver environmental benefit. And there's no other standard that does that.
Yep.
In terms of our journey through the process, we were well set up and aligned to the B Corp values in the first place. And that was one of the things that particularly drew me to the standard. We were already focusing very much on people, on our local community, so it fitted in very well. And then going through the process was, in a lot of cases, really reaffirming the things that we were already doing as being the right things. And I think in other cases, saying, no, we can do a bit more here. We can do a bit more there. And because businesses tend to be big and complex, there's always areas that we can have a little bit more improvement here, a little bit more improvement there. I think one of the real benefits of B Corp is it's really raised the profile of our environmental steering group that we had in place prior to B Corp. That has become a much more important group, a step more important because of B Corp. Now we're a member of the B Corp movement. We're looking at the B Corp benchmarks. When you go through the process, you get scored on a whole raft of different things. So it's a very, very detailed process, which took us quite a number of months to go through. But it sets a bar even higher for us, because we can say, okay, we've achieved a score high enough to become a B Corp, but there are areas where we could score more highly. So we're already looking at things like, well, how could we score more highly? For example, one of the things that we're looking at is to say, well, let's build an array of solar panels on our roof, so we can source some of our own power, and that gets a score from B Corp, as well as just generally being a really good thing to do. So that's something that, again, it's something we were looking at before we became a B Corp, but becoming a B Corp has just pushed it up the priority list and up the agenda.
I mean, it's a fascinating process. Any listeners that are considering it, you can go and look through the assessment for free. It doesn't cost any money, and it solidifies what you're already doing, but also, you're right, it highlights those things which you perhaps have thought of but not done anything, and some things you haven't thought of, and it does almost kind of raise the bar, and you think, oh, I could do all this other stuff to be even better than what we're doing now. And it's quite motivating kind of process. I don't know if you found it like that, but we found it quite motivating to say, okay, we've achieved something, but there's so much more we could do.
Yeah, absolutely. Motivating, encouraging. And it just makes me think even more, the world needs a lot more B Corps.
Yeah.
I mean, what are there? Something like, I think nearly
Getting on for
4,000
4,000, yeah.
in the world as a whole. There's about 350 in the UK. It's nowhere near enough.
No,
The
no.
world needs a lot more B.
It does need a lot more, but the good news is that it's growing quickly, and I think that there is a little bit of a backlog in the assessment because more and more people are wanting to do it and they're understanding the benefit of it, and it's growing. One of the questions I had, because you're a larger employer, we're quite a small organization, and you've got a lot of people who've been working in a certain way for a number of years, and then you're saying to them, we're doing this certification and it means a whole load of things. What was the experience of getting the staff on board and saying, this is what we're going for, and we're going to do a few different things and we need you to support us on this? Was that straightforward?
Yeah, yes, it wasn't, and the staff support was really, really good. I think because of the culture that it already existed then, and because B Corp was so closely aligned to our culture and our values in any case, the decision to become a B Corp was very much supported by the staff already at Zen. A lot of the people that are at Zen will say quite openly, we work for Zen because we believe in the culture at Zen. And so the fact that Zen is becoming a B Corp is yet another proof point that they've chosen the right company to work for. So very, very supportive. Not a single piece of resistance that I can think of.
Brilliant.
Everyone very, very supportive. And it was similar when we became Carbon Neutral Plus as an organisation. Again, a lot of support from the staff and feedback from customers as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And you mentioned the sort of people, and you touched on community, and I think I don't know, but I imagine that we could go and look, because everybody's assessment and score is available to look at transparently online. But you mentioned community, and imagine your community score was quite strong, because I think you do quite a lot in the community, don't you?
Yes, and we've done stuff in the community for many, many years. So we usually choose locally based charities to support, and we do a whole raft of activities to not just to raise money for the charity, but to go up and help them, whether that's doing bits of gardening, repainting a facility they've got, or a whole raft of other things. So we've been doing that for many, many years. And we also do things in the community, like, because of our being a technology company, we've done some stuff with local schools in terms of getting kids up to enthused about computer programming. We do loads of stuff from our Women in Tech group to try and encourage females into the tech industry, because they're underrepresented.
Absolutely,
in there. We do stuff in supporting some of the less privileged people who live locally. So we've done quite a number of things. I've done a few things personally on that. So that's something we've been doing for many years. And again, it plays very closely into what B Corp's all about. To say, a company is there to improve the prospects of the local community in which it exists, which is Rochdale.
Yeah, amazing. And B Corps as a community themselves, I don't know what you found. We've found them so helpful and so welcoming. And if we've got any questions, then there's always another B Corp who's, if they don't know, they'll know somebody and introduce us and help. And it's been amazing community for that, we've found. I don't know if you've had that experience.
Yeah, very supportive, very, very supportive. And talking to other B Corps, we've not done a huge amount of that. We've talked actually quite extensively to Triodos Bank, another B Corp, and I've chatted myself a few times to Bevis Watts, who's the CEO. Very nice guy. Very good bank as well. If you're not banking with them, there's a plug.
A little tip: swap to Triodos Bank. Yeah, great. And so, what next for Zen? Where does the next 2 or 3 years go for you? Is it, because obviously historically a ISP network provider, and you've moved into kind of managed services and cloud, and I see that you're an AWS and a Microsoft partner, and so where does the next few years go?
So our big business focus is becoming a real challenger brand. So we do, as you say, an array of different services for consumers, small businesses, big businesses, public sector. We've got a partner channel. The probably about 3/4 of our business is broadband, and we've got very ambitious goals to become ultimately a household name in the broadband space. That's our goal, to be a true challenger brand to the big guys that everybody's heard of. And every year we're continuing to grow, and we're moving step by step towards that goal. So that's the big focus from a business point of view. And going back to the whole B Corp and our values and our culture and my own personal conviction, I want to prove that you can run a business in a different way at scale. And we've proved that for 25 years. We're nearly £100 million turnover business, and we run it with a people first ethos that's aligned to B Corp. And I think that is I want to do more of that. I want to encourage other industry players to do the same, because the world as it is today is not sustainable. More businesses have a key place to play, and they need to change.
They do, they absolutely do. And I think if you look at the financial markets, and we've spoken to some finance and investment companies as part of this interview series, and spoken to ESG investors and impact investors and venture capitalists and stuff, and they are all looking towards sustainable, environmental, climate conscious companies. And they're going to be looking for these companies that put people first and not the profits, because it kind of sounds backwards that you put people first, and yet that then makes you more profitable. But that's, I think, where the money's going to go. So it's a amazingly interesting area, and I'm really fascinated by your people first concept, and it's really different to most other things I've seen or heard. And we could carry on that conversation for a long time, but is there a tip that you've got for listeners? If you said there's one thing listeners should go away and do after listening to this, what would it be?
I've got two, actually.
You got two?
I think the first one is you can make a difference by choosing to buy from B Corps. This is all about B Corps. So supporting the likes of the Guardian newspaper, switching your bank account to Triodos, switching your broadband to Zen. Go on the B Corp website, which is bcorporation.uk. There are 350 B Corps. Have a look at them. And if you can start buying your stuff from those companies, you will be making a difference. So that's sort of easy one. And it's a little bit of a self plug as well, because of course we're on there. But I think
doesn't matter. Absolutely. You're allowed to say that completely on this show.
You might. I think the other thing is we are brought up since before we can speak. We are brought up being bombarded with advertising that tells us if we buy this, we will be happier. If we buy that, we'll be happier. If we buy a bigger house, if we buy a faster car, if we buy another pair of shoes, we're going to be happier as individuals. And it cannot fail to affect all of us, even the most sustainable, conscious person. And my tip is just ask yourself, if you buy this thing, do you really need it? And are you are every time you buy something, you're consuming some of the Earth's resources. Do you really need it? Is it really going to make you a happier person? And there's a ton of research on this that basically says you think that it will, but it doesn't. So I think, as I say, you should ask yourself, do you really need to consume as much as you do consume? Is your house full of stuff that you don't use? Well, just going to buy in the future.
That is the kind of the profound change that we all need to think about, isn't it? And it's not, there are the little things we can do, but that kind of change in our thinking is, perhaps, more effective and deep-seated and deep-rooted than any of those other smaller bits. So yeah, thank you for that, Richard. And in terms of, is there a book you recommend, a film, anything like that you think people should go away and have a read of or have a watch of?
Yeah, it's quite an old film now. It's called The Corporation, 2003.
Okay.
Made by a Canadian guy. You can, if you search for it on YouTube, the full film's on there.
Okay.
And although it's now 18 years old, it gives a great picture of what corporations are all about and why the system that we've got is not sustainable for society and the environment. It's such a clear picture. And again, it then reinforces, you know, when you choose to buy something, are you going to buy it from one of those corporations that is just concerned with maximizing shareholder return, or are you going to buy that from a company that has a social and environmental conscience? Yeah. Very worthwhile watching that. The Corporation.
Brilliant.
2003.
Okay. Well, we'll put links to those things that Richard's mentioned. I think we mentioned a couple of other things as part of the conversation, so we make sure that all those links go up. Richard, if people want to find out more about Zen and the work you're doing, is your website the best place to go for that? Or
yeah, absolutely, zen.co.uk, and go on our website, check out our story. It's got all about B Corp, all about our values.
And you can see Richard wearing his Oasis t-shirt, so
oh yeah, you can watch the video.
You get a bonus. So we'll put all those links in the show page so you can go and check them out. And now it's time for fact or fake. And I'm on a bit of a losing streak at the moment, so I'm hoping to rectify that with. I've got three statements for you, Richard, and hopefully one or more of them might fool you, but we'll see how we go.
Okay.
So the first one is 82% of all IP traffic is video.
False. Oh, no, hang about. 82. True.
And then which are you going to choose? You're going to choose facts, or are you going to choose
true? I know it's a lot.
Okay, it is a fact. That's data this year from Cisco. 82% of all IP traffic, internet protocol traffic, is video, which I found that astounding. Actually, it's yeah, wow. It's a large amount of
a lot of data. Sending an email takes very little.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another one. So I'll give you the first bit of this for free. 95 million photos are uploaded on Instagram every day. So that's a fact. 95 million every day on Instagram.
That's a lot.
So here's the one. 50% of those posts don't get seen. Is that a fact or is it a fake?
Fake.
And fake because?
Fake because, oh, is it more or less get seen? I'm going to say more.
I'll put you out of your misery. You're right. It is a fake. So I lose again, but it's actually a fake. So 95 million photos get uploaded every day. 70% of those never get seen by anybody.
Oh, 70% don't get seen. Wow.
70%. So if we think about, you saying sending an email is what, 0.3 grams of CO2. This is a photo. It's going to be orders of magnitude more than that.
Yes.
95 million of them, and 70% never get seen. Wow. What a waste of resources that is.
Absolutely.
Okay, so finally, and you've won already, so you can be quite happy that in this one. The last one was 100 billion emails are sent out every day.
100 billion.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm going to go for true.
Oh, well, at least I get a consolation prize. Actually, again, it's a 250 billion or 250 billion, so it's a lot more than that.
Oh wow! Yeah,
a quarter of a trillion emails every day.
And here, I've got one for you, Mike.
Okay.
About Inequality. So,
Okay.
true, fact or fake?
Yep.
The richest 49 people in the world own the same amount of wealth as the poorest 3.8 billion. So the statement
Yeah,
is
that's
the
going to be a fake. That's going to be true.
The
Yeah.
richest 49 own the same amount of wealth as half of the rest of the population of the world.
Yep. That's true. That's a fact.
No, it's not.
Oh, isn't it?
It's a fake. and because of the answer,
is it like 70% of the rest of the world or something?
No. It is actually 26 people. The richest 26 people own the same amount of wealth as half of the rest of the population of the planet.
It can't be right.
And you think that is right? I don't think that's right.
No, there's something.
Shocking. That's shocking inequality.
Oh, there's something gone terribly wrong there, hasn't there? It's just.
Anyway, back on.
Yeah, no. Well, it's apart from that rather depressing last statistic, which isn't great. You win. And Richard, it's been an absolute delight to talk to you. I've really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed finding out more about Zen. And I've particularly enjoyed discussing your people culture with you. And yeah, hopefully maybe catch up with you again on that more in the future, because I think that's absolutely fascinating. But for now, Richard, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Great. We really hope that you found this special B Corp Month episode both informative and entertaining. Make sure you don't miss any of the other 31 interviews with B corporations who are striving to be a force for good. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss a thing. And don't forget to spread the word with others. If you have any questions about being or becoming a B Corp, or any comments and suggestions about the show, please do get in touch. You can email studio@greenelephant.show or visit our website greenelephant.show, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube or Twitter by searching for Green Elipod or The Green Elephant Show. You can also review the show on Google and Apple Podcasts. Join us tomorrow, and we hope you have a sustainable day.